Titan Quest, Hardcore, Cursed, Solo Self-Found. This means no dying. All items must be found on this character, and all of your resistances take a massive hit. In one of my previous videos, a comment asked if I could do a guide on this challenge. So here it is. This is a tips and tricks video with some discussion on approaches to the challenge and general methodology. This will be focused on the cursed version of Hardcore, which is significantly more difficult, but everything should still apply to regular Hardcore. I see three main ways to approach a Hardcore playthrough. 1. Total Glass Cannon. Simply put, you dedicate literally every stat, skill point, and item to doing as much damage as possible. That is, kill everything before it can kill you. Being honest, while this is possible to do, I don't think I myself am good enough at the game to do it with the curses active. You may well be, so good luck. The second approach is to max out your resistances and try to tank everything. This is more doable on non-cursed, but either way, it's a massive time investment. If you're happy to grind away until the heat death of the universe, this is the approach for you. The third approach is the one I use for my playthrough. Health stacking. You put well over half of your stat points into health, as well as most stats on your items, whether that be flat health or percentage-based. A mastery like defense or nature would be best here. I ended up with around 25,000 health by the end of the game. This I see is the approach to Hardcore with the greatest chance of success. When it comes to character attributes, I see dexterity as king. You will need strength or intelligence to some degree for equipping gear, yes, but dexterity has the benefit of being the only stat that increases both your offense and defense. This shapes which masteries I recommend. Defense, nature, dream, rune, and Nadan. All of these are great for either increasing your health pool or making you harder to kill. Personally, I use defense and rune. Defense gives you the highest health of any mastery, as well as a lot of dexterity and useful skills for survival. Rune is quite varied with what it offers, but the key strengths are the huge vitality resistance, movement speed, near-death survival proc, as well as flat damage that works amazingly well early game and still pays off nicely late game. It also grants you the ability to dual wield. This brings me to weapon swapping. Typically, I suggest using a fast weapon plus a shield. The faster weapon helps make the most of the flat damage bonuses you get from rune, and the shield is just useful, both for blocking as well as the beneficial stats for survival, like health and vitality resistance. However, I did mention dual wielding. On your weapon swap, I suggest either a bow or more so, 2 throwing weapons. These throwing weapons allow you to quickly swap and cast Thunderstrike, which is one of the biggest damage multipliers in the game. Then straight away, swap right back to your shield. The throwing weapons also allow you to maintain some distance against dangerous enemies, which can be often better for survival than even the greatest shield. The other advantage to throwing weapons is that they are very, very easy to find. Items like Ninth's Will or Munin's Grasp can be found in early to mid-epic difficulty and will last you the entire game. I've mentioned it a few times already, but vitality resistance is the single most important stat in your playthrough. It is the only resistance you need. If it is below 0%, you will die. Hades will kill you. Random enemies with health damage will kill you in a single hit. You absolutely need to have this bare minimum 20% or more. Fortunately, this is easy to acquire with some effort. Charms like Demon's Blood or relics such as the Aegis of Athena and the Ankh of Isis are enough to meet your vitality requirements. Simply farm them with the correct bonus stat on each difficulty. There are several locations I recommended, and you can acquire most of the relics and charms you need within the first 2 acts. Athens Mortuary has a tomb with a zombie hero monster, Jacinto the Rotten, that has a very high drop chance for Act 1 relics like Wineskin, Sandal, and the Aegis. It's a short distance from the fountain before Athens. The Act 1 Telkine also has a high drop rate on these useful relics. Just beware of the dangerous Minotaur before him. You can also use this Telkine spot to farm for the powerful Stonebinder's cuffs from the Gorgon enemies in the area. Demon's Blood are easy to farm in Acts 1, 2, or 3. Simply find a spot that's safe for you with a lot of demons, such as the Minoan Labyrinth, Giza, the tombs in the Valley of Kings, or even the ice caves in early China. In early Egypt, just before you enter Memphis, there is a tomb on the right-hand side with a guaranteed hero monster spawn. This is the Dark Spirit Conduit. Similar to Jacinto in Act 1, the Conduit is a very good place to farm for Act 2 relics like the Ankh of Isis and Amun-Ra's Glory. Also, if you are unaware, it is possible to force certain completion bonuses onto a relic or charm every time, if you finish the relic inside a specific item type rather than in your inventory, such as valuable vitality resistance on the Ankh and Amun-Ra. See the link in the description for the entire list. Another stat I feel that people sometimes ignore is movement speed. After all, the best way to survive a hit is to not take that hit at all. Now, for some items I find quite useful. The Boar Hunter's Shield. Farm this from the Centaur Nessus. The shield is useless in 99% of your gameplay, however it has one very specific use case. The Cerberus boss in the Hades Act is extremely dangerous. In fact, I lost one of my hardcore attempts to it. Cerberus, however, is a beast-type enemy. If you read on the Boar Hunter's Shield, it has the stat 40% less damage from beasts. This means you'll reduce the damage of one of the most dangerous enemies in the game by nearly half. This turns a deadly threat into something much easier to deal with. The Red Fist set of items. These monster infrequent items are found from the Red Fist enemies in the Atlantis Act. There are gloves, boots, a helmet, and chest piece. Each one always comes with either 4, 6, or 800 bonus health depending on game difficulty. This can be very powerful. Unfortunately, they are quite rare to drop, but potentially very worth the effort. The Seal of Hephaestus and Prostasia. While you can't expect to find these every character, they can be exceptionally powerful. Hephaestus gives you the ability Heat Shield, which for 100 seconds grants you 60% absorption of fire damage. This can turn dangerous enemies like Surtur or the 10 Suns into much less of an issue. Similarly, Prostasia grants the ability Energy Shield, which gives you 25% absorption of both cold and lightning damage for 100 seconds. The best part of these items is that you can keep them in your inventory and quickly swap them on. Cast the ability and swap your better rings back while still keeping the active shields. Everyone knows about these ones. Stonebinder's cuffs grant you 1 2 or 3 to all skills per difficulty. They're reliable to farm from either the Gorgon Queens or the General Gorgon enemies in the labyrinth. Very strong and can last you through the entire game. Atlantis has a special item attribute called the Tinkerer. This gives an item the ability to hold 2 different relics or charms. I find this most useful on rings and amulets. For example, an amulet in Legendary can hold both a wineskin and an ankh for a total of 1290 health, plus whatever other stats it may have. On my character, this is the equivalent of an insane 3000 health with percentage modifiers. Farm these by going repeatedly between the Gadir, Atlas Mountains, and Atlantis Wilderness waypoints and checking the nearby shops. Nith's, Will, and Munin's Grasp. These are 2 extremely powerful throwing weapons which you can have by Act 2 Epic and will last the entire game. Nith's will gives recharge, 50% vitality resistance, and enough damage for Legendary difficulty. I suggest farming this from Sand Queen Massacre and the Manticore if you can survive it. Munin's Grasp is another powerful item. While its damage is only average, it grants you the unique skill Static Snare, which is astoundingly useful for survival. I have a short video on this item, so look that up if you'd like. The Scroll of Primal Chaos can be found in shops, and while they're quite expensive, they are some of the most useful items for hardcore. 60 seconds of a flat 40% damage reduction. It'll save your life. Take the time to farm gold and buy a few dozen. Ensure you never run out. Now for a quick rundown on some dangerous enemies to watch out for. Polyphemus will one-shot kill you with his long-range slam. Do not try to tank it in normal difficulty. Typhon, obviously, he will kill you very quickly. I suggest using throwing weapons or a bow. Take your pot shots and keep moving. Dodge his bright red life drain. The Dactyl. Do not fight him. You will die. He will take you, compress you into a cube, and shove you up Hades' asshole. Tigermen in China can swarm and kill you very quickly. Do not underestimate them. Dragonian worm mages can stun you and reflect your own damage, killing you near instantly. I lost a run to these once. Cerberus is very easy to die to. Watch out for the vents on the floor. The Ferryman can be unexpectedly dangerous thanks to his tiny arena. The Mackay in Hades' Act can kill you quickly, especially the archers. Move slowly through these areas. There are many enemies in the north that can reflect your damage or ensnare or stun you. Surtur is not too dangerous, just be careful of his reflection aura. King Arganthonios in Atlantis will kill you very easily. Be ready to run away. Practically all enemies in Atlantis and Eternal Embers can be threatening. Take your time with those acts. As a general rule, I would suggest saving money, Electrum, and your Forge Quest upgrades for Legendary difficulty. Legendary items have the biggest bang for your buck, so to speak. All it takes is one good item for you to get significantly stronger, so saving your money for Atlantis Orbs and Electrum for Legendary is probably your best bet. Now for a couple experience grinding areas that I recommend. While farming bosses for items or specific enemies for relics and charms will get you most of the experience you need, sometimes you'll just need to get those extra few levels to feel safe enough to continue. Firstly is the Temple of Hatshepsut in Egypt. Walk there from the Thebes waypoint and grab the Rebirth Fountain just inside. Both inside and outside of the temple you can find dark conduits. 11 of them. They give a significant amount of experience, and it's also quite a dense area for regular enemies too. For the second, take the waypoint to Glauberg in the north and grab the Rebirth Fountain just before Teutoburg Forest. Clear everything until you reach the second Rebirth Fountain at the end of the forest. While this place was nerfed in recent times, it's still one of the better areas for experience. Between these two areas I will grind out between 5 and 15 levels depending on the difficulty. A final tip, go watch a speedrun or quick start video. YouTubers Ake and Kerplunk Gaming have great videos for you to improve your early game. There's a lot to learn from them, links below. Thanks for watching, feel free to ask questions in the comments and I'll reply to you as soon as I can.